Okay, for this section 8-2, we're also looking at some of the same characteristics for finding the different characteristics for a quadratic, similar to what we did in 8-1, so it's just more practice of the same type of question. Okay, so let's go through and start with the first example. Okay, my first example is going to be y equals x squared minus 6x plus 9. So let's get right to it. Nothing really new, I would say, to learn here, but just more practice with what we've been doing. Here's the old problem. I'm going to dock and B, clear it off, come back to my graph, put the new one in there. We're going to have x squared, and it's going to be minus 6x, and it's going to be plus 9. And we're going to press enter. We see our graph right here. The first thing they're asking me for is going to be the vertex. So remember from the last section, how do we get it? It's going to be menu, analyze graph, and we're looking for the vertex. And remember, the vertex this time is the lowest point on the graph, making it a minimum. All right, lower bound. The lower bound has to be to the left. Click enter. Now it's going to be asking me for the upper bound, and the upper bound is going to be to the right of the vertex. And once you click enter, it'll give you the value of it. It's 3, 0. That is the value for my vertex. I'm going to go ahead and write it in, 3, 0. All right. So being able to use the calculator correctly is important for being able to do these questions right. Remember, just because the calculator does it for you doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get it right. You have to know how to use the calculator correctly. All right, so the next one we're looking for is the x-intercepts. All right, so judging by the way the graph looks, it only hits at one point. Okay, so the x-intercept is the same thing as the zeros, right? And remember, we should probably go back and write in all those terms again because, remember, we're talking about zeros, roots, x-intercepts, and solutions. All of those mean where it crosses the x-axis. All of those words mean the same thing. And so since we're looking for the x-intercept, again, that means the place where it crosses the x-axis. All right, so that would be here. It looks like it's just the same point of the vertex, and it actually is. If you wanted to test that, you could go menu, analyze graph. You want to find the 0, left and right, and it finds it. It's the exact same point, 3, 0. So in this case, the 0 and the vertex just happen to be the same point, and that's fine. That can happen. Okay, so there we go. Y-intercept, that's the next thing that we would like to go through and find. All right, and so Y-intercept, I'm going to press menu, trace, graph trace, and it first automatically pops up at the Y-intercept. If you arrow off and then arrow back on, it will tell you on the screen itself Y-intercept. Where's the Y-intercept? It's at 0, 9. It tells me at the bottom. All right, so 0, 9, that's your y-intercept. Okay. Now the vertex, is it a minimum or a maximum? Remember, here's the vertex right here. It's on the lowest point on the graph, making it a minimum. All right, so there you go. What is the value of the max or the min? In this case, it's a minimum. What's its value? Trace it back, which is here. It's got a value of 0. For the minimum point. And I can just take a look at the y value of the vertex to figure that out. And the axis of symmetry is what's going to be next for us, so it's going to be x equals. And the axis of symmetry is going to be equal to the x value of the vertex, because the axis of symmetry is always going to go down through the vertex. It's always going to go down through the vertex. So it's always going to be x equals whatever that the x value of that vertex is. In this case, it's going to be 3. All right, so there we go. And so we have everything filled out for that quadratic that it asked me for. All right. So like I said, there's nothing really new here to learn per se. All right. It's more practice with what we learned from 8-1 so that we can make sure that we perfect our skills at doing these types of questions. All right. So let's slide it on down and take a look at the next one. We have another equation that we're looking for here. Same characteristics. Let's go ahead and take it to the calculator. Okay, so I'll come here now. Doc and B clears everything off. I go back to it, and I'm going to go ahead and type it in. It's going to be -1/2 x squared. Don't forget that. And we're going to go -2x, and we're going to go -6. We're going to press enter. And I'm going to go ahead and grab the graph and move it up just a little bit so I can see that particular graph a little bit better. All right. Now we're looking for the vertex. How do I do it? Menu, analyze graph. The vertex this time is going to be a maximum because of the fact that the U shape is opening downward. Notice it's asking me for lower bound. I need to go to the left of the vertex, click on it, and then it's going to change and ask me for the upper bound. So I move the upper bound line to the right of the maximum. I press enter, and notice it's giving me -4 and -2 for my vertex. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in. So it's going to be let's see, what did we say? I already forgot. -2, -4. -2, -4. That's the coordinates right there for your vertex. All right. Based on that, let's go and see if we can find the solutions. Remember, solutions, zeros, roots, x-intercept, all means the same thing. It's the place where it crosses the x-axis. All right. So let's take a look at this one here. Now, with this, if I just trace this graph, even when I'm looking at it on the calculator, there's no way that it gets back to the y-axis. So where does it cross the x-axis, or how many solutions does it have? It has none. There are no solutions to this particular quadratic. Why? Because the x value never crosses the x-axis. All right. Y-intercept we could get pretty easy. Eyeball it. It looks like -6, but let's just see if it is or not. Okay, so I'll go menu. I'm going to go trace in order to find the y-intercept. It's not on it this time, so I'm just going to arrow over till it gets to it. It'll tell me when it gets there. Y-intercept is, look at the bottom, 0, -6. Alright, so there we go. We're going to go 0, -6. Alright, so there we go. Next thing I want to do is I want to determine whether the vertex is a maximum or a minimum. It's opening downward, which of course would make the vertex the highest point. That's going to be a maximum. What's the value of the min or the max? Well, the value, remember, when we say value, we're talking about the y value. When I look across, it looks like it's going to be -4, and I can verify that's the case because, remember, the y value in the vertex gives me actually the value of the minimum max, because it's the y number that we're looking for when we assign that value. Okay, so -4 there. Axis of symmetry, we know it has to be x equals something. What is that something? The place where it crosses the x-axis. In this case, it looks like it's -2. I can verify that it is because the axis of symmetry is x equal to whatever the x number of the vertex is, -2. So remember, once you get these two coordinates for the vertex, you have the answer to the last two questions. All right. So keep that in mind. And once again, utilize the notes if you need to help you in order to complete your quiz.